Hello, welcome back to the desk. It is the year 2022, and I have something a little special for you today. This is going to be a combination ramble, combination repair, because I just got back from a bit of a vacation, and I am super behind on work and very behind on videos, so I figured why not do both at the same time. And today what we have is a very special contestant, an Emmy Super that I sold that now does not work. And yeah, so I'm just gonna spend a few minutes working on getting this repaired. And then yeah, I also wanted to talk a little bit because who doesn't like to talk when they work? It was, I don't remember, I think it was like mid-January 2021 that I started the channel, and we've just experienced some insane growth. Appreciate that so much, and I'm hoping to continue the growing trends, bring in some new stuff this year, some new video formats. I definitely want to get a more structured thing going here. I don't know, some kind of like schedule for releasing content and such. I feel like that would just make it better overall if you had something to rely on. And I want to do something about this. I do have plans to clean up most of this because right now off camera over here I have like 17 cameras that are like in different spaces of disrepair, so I'm hoping to get those put together and then make sure they're working and then sell them and such. But for the time being, this is what we're working with, so bear with me. As you can see there's a little slicey dice in the circuit board, which is a bummer. But anyway, quick tip: if you need to jumpstart an Emmy Super, there's a copper contact here, so you like loop that and then hit the power cable, and that should get the board to like start working again. It's not really working on this, and I think that's because something in here is bad, so I'll have to take this whole thing apart, which I will start to do presently. And while I do that, Willow's going to break into my room and I'm going to continue talking. Things go in trends, and right now it would appear as though the growing desire seems to be the kind of easier options for shooting film. So the more budget-friendly things, and you're seeing that in the price increases in Kodak film, which is more kind of recentering to what it used to cost to shoot film. So yes, it sucks, but also I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think if the money that is made off of the price increases of the film that is being bought, if that is reintroduced into the film economy, so hopefully more film gets made, then overall, job done, that's great. Yes, I'm not super jazzed about the idea of needing to spend more to shoot film, but that's a price I'm willing to pay, quite literally. It's more expensive this year than it was this time last year to start shooting film. So why would I be recommending that this is the year that you start? Because quite simply, there's never been a better time to shoot film. There are so many resources out there with whatever kind of film photography you want to get into that can have all of the answers for you. There's many places you can go for help, guidance, all that stuff, which is something I kind of wish I would have done more when I was starting, because I think it would have saved me from making a lot of the mistakes that I did. It's very easy to get into. There's just an abundance of cameras out there. What is that, pray tell? That's probably very important. Jesus. Yeah, I'm loving this repair so far. This is supposed to just be easy, but when are they ever? So yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a great time to get into film. so many resources, a lot of different influences that you can pull from. Film is very accessible. There's so many different entry level options out there that I can recommend. If you want to just get into like just quick disposable stuff, I would recommend not buying a bunch of disposable cameras because those can really add up, but instead getting like the reusable disposable stuff. I think it's a Kodak M35, and now I think Ilford makes the same thing. I think there's like one company that makes this camera, and then Ricoh, I think Olympus has one, but they just rebrand it for whatever particular company is trying to sell them. Which, again, if that is all being used to produce more stuff, you know, if all that money is being channeled into some sort of film capacity of like making new cameras, developing more film, yada yada yada, I think that's wonderful. I think that is great. So I'm not here to fault them for that. Film offers a different experience. I take a lot of pictures on my phone, or with my phone I should say. But the problem with taking pictures on my phone is, like, I'll take a bunch of photos and then kind of forget that I even took them. That happened not too long ago, where I meant to send one of my friends this photo that I took, and I was like, oh, this reminds me of you, or something you said, or this conversation we were having. And I took it. I didn't have service at the time, so I didn't send it. And I was looking through my phone just like a few days ago, and I was like, oh, I meant to send this to you like 6 months ago. And I just totally forgot, because if you take so many photos, it just they all kind of gloss over in your mind a little bit. They don't have that same level of significance. And I think that in the modern world that we live in, I think we should be kind of looking for things that give us more significance, more tangible interactions with the world around us, because I've been finding lately that you just don't get as much of that. What in the same hail? Okay, there's that. Oh, good. And shooting film brings you back into the physical space of having X amount of photos. And there's been so many photos that I've taken that haven't turned out because I shoot with a lot of expired film, and I'm not the world's best photographer. I'm nowhere near that. There's been many times where I've seen something and I'd be like, I want to capture this moment. And you just can't. It's not something that can be done, or you try to, and the photo turns out like garbage. But me personally, I remember that experience so much more because I didn't get the picture. So I feel kind of wishful that I had it, but it almost creates a more beautiful memory because I don't have the picture to look at and be like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't as pretty as I thought it was, or maybe it wasn't as poignant as I thought it was. But because I have created so many memories around that experience, I will not forget to tell somebody about that if, it correlates. Whereas I would forget to send my friend a picture that I took explicitly to show them something, because I have so many photos on my phone. So I think the point being of this whole argument is film photography grounds me a little bit. It creates more of a tangible experience with my surrounding environments. And I'm not saying that I don't get that with digital stuff. With the videos I make, I do have that same kind of feeling, although I do ramble so much I kind of forget about what I talk about sometimes. So this may all be me retreading, but I have other points about this, but I didn't really write anything down. This is just all off the top of my dome. So I think what I will probably do is I will continue taking this apart and then trying to fix it.
you up, I'm talking about banging some. Chill off in your crib with half a thing, probably make this thing or something. Girl, you like my bottom piece. Post my bill, pay for my lawyer. Play your position when the mother hoes get out of order. When you wanna give me that pussy, you purchase a plane ticket. Word around town when I bust her down, then one shit like them lanes did it. Got a dick grip, my dick's mirror lipstick. Basically, if this bitch play with me, she playing me. I'm on some pimp shit for real. When your club was about to close up, coming through my contacts, about to call one of my hoes up. Then I met you, came and followed you to the breakfast spot. Fuck you like I'm married to that night up in the Mary. I feel like you got your cherry pop. Drunk and switching up positions, talking shit would never stop. Motherfucker in the mission. Damn. Here we go again, baby. Take that walk now, baby. Friends probably gon' call you a hoe. What you trippin' on? Them bitches want a grip on the same dick you be sitting on. And your girl Monique, she be hitting me with her nigga gone. Tryna buy some weed, she proceed with nothing but biggies on. Nothing but ass and titties, but I let that ass and bitches. Took it in that hit that wish I could say it was accidental. Like I slipped on a banana peel and fell in that pussy. Y'all niggas be spending all kind of skrill to get in that pussy.
All right, back at it. Couple things here. We got how my soldering iron works is it like plugs into the wall, and there's a separate plug that plugs into the unit that the iron itself is a part of, and this thing is like so long, and then the plug or the cable going into the wall is like pretty short. So this ends up getting like tangled in everything. So I'm trying to like manage that a little bit better, but we're not going to worry about that too much more. Jesus, that hurt. What I just did, I just like scraped my thumb up real bad. Nice. Gonna bleed now? Yeah, it's starting a little bit there. Well, this is off to a good start. I'm just first blood here. From just touching my light. Oh, that's good. Cool. Hands are a little... I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick, actually. I'll be right back. Alright, back at it. So, we have an ME Super right here that is not working currently. Basically what's happening is it's firing, but it's only firing on the mechanical speeds, which is 1/125th of a second, which is the flash sync speed, and then also bulb. So regardless of however you want to slice it, you know, if you put it at automatic, you put it at manual, it's just not working. So I've did the thing, I might have discussed it on this channel, but if I haven't, basically there is on this main switch here, there is that thing there, this copper wire that's uncovered. And if you were to take tweezers to that and then to the power input on the board right there, which would be the red wire, sometimes it's a red and blue wire, but if you take tweezers to those 2 points, you kind of jumpstart the camera a little bit, and that should work about half the time. It didn't work on this time. I could get the board to register power, which is a good sign, but then it would fail. So, I don't know. And this is a camera that I sold to somebody, and it was working 100% fine when I sold it, and then it got there and it stopped working. So he sent it back, and I'm repairing it pro bono, so to speak, because yeah, you know, it's just one of those things that I can't really test for it. Would you be quiet, please? Oh my god. So yeah, that's basically what's happening here, is just a nightmare. But I have this. So what I'm gonna do, which could potentially solve my issues. Would you can it? Yes. Shh. I'm gonna do a quick saucy little shutter swap on this. Yes. Willow doesn't like when I do this because it's complicated. I don't like when I do this because it's complicated, but it has to be done. So there's nothing left to do but to do it. Yeah, and if memory serves, this one was working fine. It's just a little old. So yeah, let's do it to it. I have here some Kirin Ichiban. It's okay. I don't know. It was, I went to the yep, that's something. Oh man. I went to the it's called W Mart. It's not Walmart, but it's one of those like Asian superstores. I got some produce, got some meat. Their meat is like, I would say it's worryingly cheap. It's very affordable, so I don't really eat too much of that because I don't know. You never know. But they're great. They're always very friendly too when I go in there. The lady was like, "Are you older than 21?" I think so. And she looked at me and she's like, "Okay, I believe you." It's like, thank you. Very, very nice people. So always like to go in there. In my heart of hearts, I want to say it's a local business, but I have a hard time believing that because it seems like everything is a larger corporation now. Okay, so this is the battery compartment there. For any of those curious, this is kind of what you have to do to access the Nikon, like the FM and the FEs. It's a very similar process to accessing their battery compartment. So if your battery compartment is shorting out and your camera is not working, you only have to remove the entire thing. And it's very fun. It's so fun that I love doing it. Just kidding. It's one of the my least favorite things that I've had to do, I think. Yeah, so there's 2 screws in the top there, 1 screw in the bottom here. This one is always the toughest. Cool. So basically what I do, oh man, I like to remove the tripod mount so that way I can just kind of pull the shutter straight out and not worry too much about having to lift up on it. Look at that. Oh, like a glove. So yeah, in my recent video, which I think I want to talk a little bit about the UFC this tomorrow, because today's Friday. So I'm going to try and edit this and release it in one day. We will see how that works. But in my video that I released regarding the FM2, I discussed that the shutters are different than the standard FE, FM shutters. And I really want to rescind that point because, one, obviously they are. The FE and the FM, their fastest speeds are, I think, 1/1000. And then the FM2 and the FE2, they go to like 1/4000th or whatever. So obviously, those are going to be different mechanisms there. And then also, I wanted to mention why I even brought that up in the first place was because I did not know that. Like, when I first started, working on Nikons, there was never any like manual of like, oh, these are all of the cameras that we work on. Oh, then the shutter just pulls out like this. So real quick, pausing the Nikon talk. This is the body of the camera. Obviously it has these two indents here, and that's for the blade traveling right there. This unit here controls the this green bit there is the magnet, which controls the magnetic aberration, which is obviously the timing in between the blade release, basically. So right now it's obviously exposing as it would if it was in bulb, and then if you push this in as you would like if you're adjusting from bulb to 1/25th or manual, auto, whatever, this is what moves, and that engages these other mechanisms here, which controls the shutter timing. So that is that. What I'm gonna do now, because I don't really like having just a bunch of parts, is reattach. So then I'll go back to talking about the Nikon. So I mentioned that because I didn't know anything about Nikons when I started working on cameras. I had a N80 at the time that I kind of inherited, and but I mean, yeah, that's not in any way, shape, or form comparable to an FE, to an FM, to any of that sort. So my knowledge on cameras and things was limited severely, but I was pretty gung-ho and, you know, just wanted to put my best foot forward. So I had an FM2, I want to say it was, because I think that's probably one of the prettiest looking cameras to me. I love the look of it, even though I can't stand them. Can't stand working on them. But I had this camera, FM2, and it worked beautifully, except for one of the blades on the curtain was like a little bit out of sync, I want to say. It was either that or somebody just like poked their finger through it and it was just like destroyed. I think that's what it was. It was just completely destroyed. So my boss at the time was like, you know, it's actually really worth our while to, oh, real quick, I have this this front part to an ME Super and the back part, but it's missing the mirror box and the shutter. But look at that, just the perfect camera. Oh my god, the things I find I'm using now is just pathetic. Anywho, yeah, so put that right there. But yeah, my boss was like, it's worth our while to try and figure out how to fix this. And I was like, don't say another word. I got you, dog. So I took this FM2 and I just had like this box of Nikons. I called it the Nightmare Box, and I stand by that name because I'm hilarious. And it was a box of nightmares. But yeah, so I took this Nightmare Box and I was like, oh, FM, that works, right? Totally disregarding the number 2. And yeah, I yoinked the shutter out of the FM, yoinked the mirror box out of the FM2, and I was like, that does not look right. That does not look like it fits together at all. And yeah, that's how I learned that lesson. And in hindsight, again, I should have known. One, because my luck is just like historically not great, and two, the obvious signs of the Giant 2, the blades look completely different, and then also again the shutter speeds. But I wasn't too concerned about those things back in the day. Some could say I'm not even that concerned about them now. But live and learn. The thing I want to briefly touch on is my cat is currently like fully exposing herself in the hallway right out of frame here. So it's a pretty wild Friday night out here. But yeah, no, the other thing I want to touch on is parts. I don't recycle because the complex I live at doesn't recycle anymore. But you know, I do care quite a bit about the planet, and I do think that, you know, there's been just an unnecessary amount of waste produced that I don't think is sustainable. So when it comes to parts, I'm not going to be holding on to every single thing, but for instance, if the shutter unit is bad, so to say, I am going to hold on to it because I do think it is a fixable thing per se. I believe, if I remember the manual correctly, and this is off the top of my dome, so I could be incorrect, but if I remember correctly, it's the magnet that experiences a fault. And when I first started really tearing down ME Supers, my misconception was that the magnet was a component of the main switch that I showed you previously, and I could not figure out how exactly that worked out. But I was like, oh, it has to be. Where else would it go? But then looking at it now, it's obviously right there. So I'd imagine that there's some feasible way to replace that magnet and or to potentially repair it. Again, I'm not an expert on these things, but if you are, or you know somebody who is, please let me know. I am very interested. And I always love, it makes me really happy when I hear feedback from people, like when people give me advice or, hey, you're not doing this correctly, or maybe you should try doing that. Like, that's one of my favorite things because, one, I'm not perfect. And I never submit myself to be, like, very much self-taught. And I'm just kind of figuring things out as I go. So I believe there's always room for improvement, and I always want to be in a constant state of improvement. Because otherwise, it's just kind of boring. You know, if you're like, oh, I know everything, it's like, I don't know. You kind of close your mind off to like so much in life if you have that mentality. So I try to avoid that if at all possible. I'm going to set this aside right now. But yeah. If you have any advice, tips, things you want to share about magnets, resources for me to look into, God, woman, chill. Because I do read, believe it or not, I know how to do that. Then yes, please send them my way. I closed my door because the air conditioning started. But as soon as I do that, then Willow decides that she wants to be in my room. So she will start knocking on the door. It's kind of adorable, but also kind of annoying. But she's cute, so I'm not mad. So what we're gonna do here is clean this off, because why not? And then also just gonna do a little detailing in the body, because again, we're here, so might as well. And then I'm gonna talk about UFC 270, which is, again, if I'm editing this video tonight and tomorrow, which I really hope I do, because I gotta get back onto a roll. But anyway, UFC 270 is January 22nd, yes, which is a Saturday. And I can't imagine that there's a huge overlap in people that enjoy watching videos of some guy trying to repair cameras, and also people who enjoy watching mixed martial arts. But I do. I like mixed martial arts quite a bit. I don't really follow, like, I watch a Bellator event here and there, but I kind of don't hate myself that much, so I don't find myself watching much Bellator. It sounds weird when you say it. The more you say Bellator, the worse it sounds. UFC 270 is today, maybe. And it is, it's an interesting fight for sure. It's Francis Ngannou is taking on Cyril Gane, yes, for the, like, official heavyweight championship, which is cool, super cool. However, it's kind of weird because Cyril Gane is the interim champ at the moment, and like maybe he shouldn't be, you know, because Francis won the belt in March because he knocked out my boy Stipe, which to this day is sad to think about. But moving on, that fight happened, I think it was March, I want to say. It might have been, because it was UFC 260. Yeah, and then in like August, Francis wasn't like ready to fight. I think he went back to Cameroon to like visit his family and stuff. And then the UFC was like, but kind of need to have a heavyweight title fight on this card in Houston. And Derek Lewis, who's another heavyweight, lives in and maybe is from Houston. I know he lives there. I don't know if he's born there. But anyway, he's a big draw there in Houston. So they're like, all right, well, if Francis can't fight Derek, which they fought previously, and it was arguably the most boring fight in UFC history, outside of maybe whichever one took place in Detroit way back when. But at least in modern history, it was the most boring fight. And Derek Lewis has like huge knockout power, so does Francis, yada yada yada. So everyone was like super stoked to see them fight. And then when they did fight, it was like they just kind of walked around each other for 15 minutes. So everyone was like, man, this sucks. Then Francis went on a big win streak, beat Stipe. Derek went on a less impressive win streak, I will say. But he knocked out Curtis Blades, and the heavyweight division is just like notoriously pretty slim pickings, especially at the top. There's a huge disparity in talent. There's like all of the super overweight dudes who are like, I'm pretty sure just plucked out of bar fight and then thrown in there. And then there's like someone like Cyril Gane or Stipe, who's like a super technical boxer. And then there's Francis, who just exists in a category in and of its own, where he can just like destroy worlds if he wanted to. This is the part that I hate, because it has to go in a very certain way. And I've not had to do this in a hot minute. So bear with me. You know what I usually do? That's right. Because I was thinking about this. I usually take this out. This is the advanced indicator thing. And it seems like it's a really small thing, but it does actually help a little bit, because it just makes that much more room. So we'll see if that does anything. So anyway, Cyril Gane stepped up to fight Derek Lewis at UFC 265. Look at that. Like, that was so much easier. I'm such a silly youth. Yeah, so that fight went down. Cyril Gane won, obviously, and became the interim heavyweight champion, whatever. And that set up this fight today. And now, the issues that people have with it is that it's the interim belt even happened in the first place. Francis doesn't really want to be fighting for however little he's getting paid now, so that's the issue. And they used to be training partners. There's some tiff about training footage or something. I don't know. I don't really follow that because I don't find it as compelling as the actual fight itself. Because if you look at it, if you know anything about either fighter, Cyril Gane is just like uber technical. And I think this is going to be his like 11th MMA fight. I want to say like, yeah, I think he got into the UFC. He was like 4-0 or something, like 5-0 maybe. So I think this might be his 12th fight then. Yeah, so he fought one dude, submitted him, fought another dude, submitted him, fought Tanner Boser in 2019, and that was a decision win, but it was like not a very close decision. But Tanner Boser is a very light heavyweight. Like he comes in at like 220, I want to say, or something like that. So he's got really fast movement, quick hands, and all that stuff. Cyril Gane, I think, is like 240, and just outpaced him. Really, that's a great fight if you ask me. Like, great in the sense that it's technical and it's enjoyable to watch, I think. Not great and there's like, oh, it's just non-stop action. Like, I think it's entertaining, but not for everybody. And then a year later, Cyril Gane fought Junior Dos Santos, conked him out. There was some like minor dispute. JDS thought that he punched him behind the ear or whatever. And then, let's see, the next fight was Rosenstruck, who's a Surinamese kickboxer. And that was a main event, I believe. Cyril Gane just like mopped the floor with him. But it was a little slow paced. Because again, Cyril Gane is a very technical fighter. Okay, good. And then, let's see, the following one was nice. Alexander Volkov. It was a very impressive fight. Alexander Volkov is like 7 feet tall, just like some crazy height. His nickname is Drago, off of Ivan Drago from the Rocky movies, because he's Russian and he looks like a superhuman. So that fight went really well for Gane. And I love Volkov. I love his back tattoo. It used to be a manta ray, and then he changed it. He did like a cover up or whatever. And now it's just this like huge samurai mask. I think that's dope. But again, not a super competitive fight, but a very impressive showing for Cyril Gane. And then like in like 2 months, I think he turned around and fought Derek Lewis. So there was definitely like a huge uptick in his fight scheduling, which nobody's really talking about. But I just remember like seeing him fight Tanner Boser, and I was like super stoked to watch him fight again. And then he just didn't for like a whole year. And then he finally came in because he was going to fight like 4 or 5 people mid 2020. Like, and they just kept falling through from COVID or injuries or whatever. So it was a big bummer. But then he finally came out and fought JDS, and I was like, that's not a bad fight either, because JDS is like renowned striking abilities and stuff for a heavyweight. And to be fair, he is very good. He was very old. He's still very old, obviously, but he was old last year as well, or I guess 2 years ago now, but regardless. But it was a huge step up in name value. And then the fight happened how it did, and I think I watched it live. I'm pretty sure I did, at least. I might be lying about that. Don't quote me. Either way, I'm gonna leave this off for now. So yeah, that takes us to present day, and the fight is relatively intriguing because the argument is, does Cyril's like cerebral fighting style benefit him more than Francis's like instant fight ending power would benefit Francis? And I want to make it clear that like I am by no means an expert on any of this, so like definitely take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is just, I find these things interesting and I kind of want to talk about them, because otherwise I'll just work in silence and then I will go crazy, or I'll like start watching a show or something like Stargate and then I will just forget to work. So talking to nobody it is. The reason why I kept the battery compartment off is so I can feed this back through there. These are the contacts. If you were to put an auto winder on, these need to come through here, and it's just easier to do that than trying to like solder it, unsolder it, and all that noise. So if anyone's actually watching this for instructional tips, that's one of them. I'm kind of sorry, I'm not really talking much about the repair. So again, if you have any questions at all, comment them down below. We'll get back to them as quick as I can. But while we are here, actually, I do want to point out something very interesting about the board. All of this business here. As you can see right here, it just plugs in, basically. So I could just yoink that out very easily, remove the electronics. I've very rarely had to do that though, because typically there's other issues that's not this board. If you do need to remove the electronics for any reason, I believe I recorded a video about it, but I can't find it, so I'm just going to talk about that really quickly. Imagine that the camera body is on. There's a screw right there, so you remove that, and then you kind of need to tug this. This is the LED for the light meter. You know what, I'll just do it. That'll just be easier. So unscrew this. You want to be very careful that that doesn't just fall into the camera, because that has happened to me many times and it's very frustrating. And then you just kind of pull this out. But you have to be careful because one, this is very fragile, and two, this is like, it's an awkward shape. And then there is like adhesive that sits under these parts. So what I typically do is go under with like a flathead screwdriver and just very gently kind of work that free. Sometimes a Q-tip with alcohol works to kind of absolve the adhesive, but you can see those two pads right there. And then from there you can access the prism. I believe there are set screws there, and there's actually a hole right there in the board, so you can access that set screw, which I think is very considerate. And one of the many reasons I think Pentax cameras are the most like considerate cameras to work on. Hot take. Not really. Outside of like this really annoying stuff that I'm doing right now, Pentaxes are by and large the best, I think. But yeah, no, the fight this weekend, it poses a lot of interesting questions. I'm more interested to see where the division kind of goes, because I think whoever wins will kind of determine a lot of factors. People want to talk about John Jones coming back potentially, which, yeah, I'm okay. Like, I'm good. Homie's got to stop getting arrested so much. I don't know, I'm just not like, I just don't see him, and maybe because I don't watch a lot of his fights, but I just don't see the huge hype around his recent abilities. One, he's not fought in going on 2 years? I think it was February of 2020. Yeah. When he like barely beat Dominic Reyes. And then before that, it was a split decision to Thiago Santos, who had no knees. Like, Thiago blew out both of his knees, like, during the fight. And almost, like, according to one of the judges, won, which is just bonkers to think about. And then before that, it was Anthony Smith, who John struck illegally, but the fight went on because Anthony Smith is game. But yeah, I don't know, John Jones moving up to heavyweight, it's kind of one of those I'll believe it when it happens things, and I just don't see him, his little bulk season that he's been on, I don't see that being like this huge game-changing thing that everyone else makes it out to be. And maybe it's just because I'm biased because I don't really like him, and I'd much rather see someone like Stipe go back in and fight for the title. And honestly, that's probably what it is. But I goofed. That's what it was. I was like, this is not screwing in properly. And that's because I need this one. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see where the division goes. If Francis loses, like, what's he gonna end up doing? The real fight, I think, on the card that I'm most interested in, ever since the Aaliyah Topuria fight fell out, which was going to be really good because it was Aaliyah Topuria versus I'm blanking on the name, but I think he was another Eastern European guy who's just looked amazing. It's a 145, so featherweight fight. But that fight got canceled because something. So it was going to be Aaliyah Topuria versus Charles Jourdain, and then Aaliyah Topuria fell through because of, I think Aaliyah Topuria had an injury of some sort, so the fight got canceled, which is a huge bummer. And that was kind of like the main thing I was looking forward to on this fight card. Yeah. Hell yeah, baby. Okay. We got about 16 minutes of recording space left on this card. So I'm going to talk a little bit, dump it, and then we'll finish up this video. Because I think it'll take a lot longer than 16 minutes to get this properly fixed. It's the morning time now, January 22nd, and I'm gonna have this video done and posted in a few short hours. So hopefully I can get this finished before then. If not, this will just be an inconsequential video of me taking apart an ME Super. Yeah, I was like out with a buddy the other day. I'm like, yeah, you know, seen you post and stuff, that's great. You know, I've not found the time to watch any of it, I'll be honest. I was like, dude, honestly, I don't blame you. Because some of my stuff is just so niche. What am I looking for? I'm looking for that. Not that. What is this? At what point in time did I have a flathead screw? Oh, that's worrisome. Okay. Oh well. We will not worry about that just yet. Those are for that. Those are together. Okay. We'll say that those are for here. But yeah, so flyweight title fight. This is actually the first time in UFC history that there's been a flyweight trilogy. I need more light. So that's kind of cool because the OG campion of the flyweight division, Demetrius Johnson, was just like untouchable. Like everyone that they threw at him, it just didn't work out. And then when he finally lost, it was to Henry Cejudo, which is an arguable decision, to be completely honest. Like, I watched the fight once a few years ago, and I was like, I mean, I guess it could have gone for Henry, but you know, whatever. It was his time, so Henry became champion at that point. He had one defense against TJ Dillashaw, who was dropping down from bantamweight. That was in January of 2019. And then he himself moved up to bantamweight because Dillashaw popped for EPO. And yeah, Henry Cejudo becomes double champ, defends the belt against Dominic Cruz, and then retires from the sport. And then Deiveson Figueiredo fights Joseph Benavidez for the vacant flyweight belt. Deiveson Figueiredo misses weight, knocks out Benavidez, and it's a controversial thing because there was a headbutt, and also he missed weight. So basically, if you miss weight for a title fight, you don't get the title if you win. Same thing happened to Yoel Romero when he fought Luke Rockhold. So then they fought again a few months later. Figueiredo beats him, Benavidez that is. And yeah, then next thing we know, Figueiredo is defending the belt against Alex Perez, who I don't really even remember how that fight came up. Genuinely, I don't. I think he was supposed to fight Cody Garbrandt, but anyway, it was a whole thing. That fight didn't go very well for Alex Perez, and then fought Brandon Moreno. So now this is their third time fighting, and Moreno has only looked better. Like, he's got one of the best jabs in the division, hands down. Like, really clean technique on the feet. And then also, I think his scrambling is pretty good because Figueiredo has like just a killer guillotine. There's a video I saw recently because he choked out Joseph Benavidez in the second fight, and he's celebrating after the fight's over, and then Joey B wakes up in the background and just starts screaming, and it's one of the most terrifying things ever. And that was because, you know, he'd been conked out. So yeah, that was tough to watch. But there was a few times in the second fight, which I've watched recently. I think I've watched the first fight like once, so I can't speak with much authority as to how that goes down. But the second fight I did just watch, so we'll talk a little bit more freely about that. There was some scrambles in that fight where it looked like if Moreno wasn't smart, he would have gotten caught up really badly. But fortunately, he knew what he was doing and got out of there. So I think that and the stand-up component favoring Moreno, I think it'll be a very good fight. But I hope for Moreno wins too. Like, he just seems like a really nice guy. You know, he's got he got the like Lego champion belt. It was very adorable. He's just like a big kid. I think he's 28 and Figueiredo's 34, and that's old for that division. And he cuts from like 180 down to 125. It just blows me away how someone can do that. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I hope Moreno wins. I hope Figueiredo moves up to 135 because I think that'll just be healthier for him moving forward. And I think that he'll be really good in that division. Like, I don't dislike Figueiredo at all, but you know, I don't really want to see him because like he does not look good on the scales. He just looks super drained. So maybe this is a good idea, maybe it's a bad idea, but I'm trying to reconnect stuff now So that way when I get it all put back together, I don't have to worry about soldering in close quarters, because that's just my least favorite thing in the world. Uh-oh. 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 Okay. Well, that's weird. Whoopsies. Oh my god. Oh man, that's funny as hell. Oh man, I gotta take a picture of this. This is too funny. Yeah, basically what has happened here is on one of the parts I disconnected the hot shoe contact from one side, the other from the other side, so now it's just that. But anyway, what was I saying? It was obviously something super important. Oh yeah, the KX. I don't think I recorded a video on that because it took forever to do. But basically, I had this KX and I was getting the shutter to work better for the customer sent it in. The shutter wasn't working properly, like it was kind of stalling out, which I've seen that before. It's not like very uncommon, it's just weird when it happens. Dope. Sometimes I'm actually pretty good at soldering. That makes me happy. But yeah, so I took the front plate of this KX off and was fixing up the shutter. I got the self timer sometimes doesn't line up. I might have shown you that with the Spotmatic, but there's like, it's like a cross point washer thing, and it can fall out or it becomes dislodged or unlinked at any point, and the self timer just won't function properly. It's very annoying. Fortunately, Pentax stopped doing that, and instead they utilize the system where the self timer is all contained in this front component here. So there's all the gears for it and stuff, as opposed to it being in the body like in the older. Oh, there it is. So this is an old Spotmatic. This is the self timer for it that sits right here, and then that's the washer right there in question. So this is just, nope, that's not it. It's gone somewhere. But it would sit on top of that, and then it connects to that right there, which is the thing. Anyway, so basically it can become a nightmare, and I'm glad that Pentax changed the way that they designed the system. I'm trying to remember, I think the curtain is charged. I have to charge the... Is the mirror charged too? Yep, it was. Putting this back together, I believe you charge both components, and then you kind of have to link it in. And then also making sure that you have enough space to solder all of the wires in to there, and then onto the top and around and stuff. And unfortunately with this repair, I have to basically put the entire thing back together before I can figure out if it actually works or not. And then if it doesn't, I have to take it all apart again. So it's a little bit of a nightmare. But I think for now, I'm gonna cut this video here because we're going on to 15 minutes of this recording. Yeah, I think this is enough footage for one video. So I'm gonna cut all this together, upload it, and then I'll finish working on this and then make another video for that, post it later, a little part 2, if you will. But until then, if you have any questions, comment them down below. If you liked hearing my MMA monologue, you know, you're welcome. If you have any opinions on the fights, please let me know. I'm very excited to hear what you think. And yeah, catch you on the next one.